Do you think smaller service providers can continue to compete? Small VARs and MSPs, are you starting to see small VARs and MSPs play in the sort of the SaaS and cloud market?
Well, we've been in the hosting business or in hosting enablement business for the last 10 years, and all of those years we've heard that small hosters will disappear,
Right.
but they just don't. And the primary reason for that is that for now, hosting and cloud still remains to be the industry with extremely high pace of innovation,
Right.
and extremely low barrier to entry.
Right.
And there is always this notion of, is there economies of scale, or when will economies of scale kick in? And so far we just don't see it. So far what we see is that it's not the economies of scale that matter. What really matters is the innovation and efficiency. When we look at the smallest providers out there, some of them operate at much higher margins than the biggest names out there.
Okay. So, hey, one other thing we've seen in the last few weeks are acquisitions. For instance, Verizon acquiring Terramark, Time Warner moving to buy Navisite. Now, I realize neither one of those deals are done. They're still subject to regulatory approval. But assuming they do get done, do you expect more consolidation like this? Can the small MSPs and VARs still remain upbeat even as bigger players buy up one another?
Well, I think when we look at those specific acquisitions, when telecoms acquired the cloud players, this one I wouldn't even call consolidation, but rather telcos buying their into the cloud. They're just buying the expertise, buying the customers, buying existing business. It's not like we're trying to consolidate.
Okay.
But coming back to question whether this industry will consolidate, well, there is definitely some consolidation at certain pace what's going on. For example, Endurance Group, which is known in the US to buy up number of players, but at the same time we also see huge inflow of new players. Those smaller managed service providers and those smaller VARs and even smaller hosters. And as I mentioned before, we believe that they can compete and they can compete successfully.
Let's talk a little bit about your partner summit coming up, the Parallel Summit. I know it's for customers and partners. What key trends do you expect to see down at Parallel Summit?
One thing that we believe will be big as web hosting or even bigger, is actually hosted PBX and hosted phone systems. The adoption of hosted PBX or hosted phone systems among even small businesses is extremely low, but it's starting to pick up.
Right.
And it's not going to explode tomorrow, but we see this coming. We see that adoption of hosted PBX and eventually hosted unified communication will be maybe even bigger than almost anything else out there.
Well, Jack, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.